culture and the arts. You're watching PBC Jamaica.
It's Friday, January 12. This is the news on PBCJ. I am Simone Absalom. The Embassy of the United States in Kingston says that Jamaica's status has not changed despite the new travel advisory scale. The Foreign Affairs Ministry explained that the embassy confirmed that the format of worldwide travel advisories issued by the United States State Department and the use of a tiered level of advice ranging from 1 to 4 is new. Under the newly introduced tiered system, Jamaica has been classified at level 2 in the updated travel advisory, which was posted recently. The United States yesterday categorized Jamaica as level 2 on its new travel advisory scale, warning Americans to, quote, exercise increased caution, end quote, when traveling to the island due to the high crime rates. The advisory posted on the U.S. State Department's website said violent crimes such as home invasions, armed robberies, homicide, and sexual assaults occur frequently, even at all-inclusive resorts, and Jamaican police, quote, lack the resources to respond effectively to serious criminal incidents, end quote. Jamaica should brace for more rain, according to the Meteorological Service, as a cold front, which is producing showers and thunderstorms across the Gulf of Mexico, is moving toward the southeast. The system is expected to enter the Western Caribbean today and linger in the vicinity of Jamaica throughout the weekend. Atmospheric conditions are expected to become unstable across Jamaica starting this afternoon, and the Meteorological Service said there will be showers which may be heavy at times and possible thunderstorms mainly across the northern and western parishes this weekend. Several roads across the island are still being cleared, particularly in the parishes of Portland and St. Mary, which have been affected by rainfall over the last 5 days. 2 roads are still inaccessible in Portland, while 2 have been closed in St. Mary. The roads from Rio Grande to Coffee's Head and Moortown to Cornwall Barracks are still not accessible to vehicular traffic.
What we're planning to do there is temporary restoration using shingling, but that is yet to be done. What we know is that residents are in fact aware of the situation. They have heeded the warning and are using the alternate routes through Platteville and Mount Vernon to access Coffee Gully and through Whitehall to access Martins. In fact, Martins can be approached through 3 alternate routes. That's Whitehall, Islington, or off the North Coast Highway.
Jamaicans are still being urged to be aware and prepared for a possible earthquake. Tuesday night's earthquake that affected several countries in the region occurred along the same fault line that affected Haiti in 2010. Head of the UWI's earthquake unit, Professor Simon Mitchell, says the active fault line runs directly into Jamaica before tapering off into Cuba.
This is an active fault. This fault is moving at anything from about 8 millimeters to 20 millimeters a year. So what happens is stress builds up on this fault. As that stress builds up, eventually somewhere it fails. The 2 recent failures have been in Haiti and have been near the Swan Islands. Now, of course, one day there will be one in Jamaica. Now, that's not up for debate. It will happen. The trouble is we don't know when it will happen.
The earthquake unit says that in 2017, 92 earthquakes were recorded. The 12 seismograph stations across the island recorded 279 tremors. Representatives from the Cocoa Industry Board and the Ministry of Commerce are working to eliminate the threat of frosty pod disease outbreak. Last August, frosty pod rot disease forced the shutdown of Clarendon, St. Catherine and St. Mary's cocoa production. Sanil Wilson, Chief Plant Quarantine and Produce Inspector, says the outbreak is being treated as high priority.
No, the disease actually is the single most devastating disease of cocoa and causes up to 80 to 100% loss in terms of yield.
As part of the response, a survey was conducted. It indicated that more than 57% of Clarendon's cocoa production was affected. This translates into millions of dollars lost. Jamaican cocoa is among the top 10 most renowned in the world, but the order against its production in the 3 parishes became necessary after the frosty pod rot disease caused widespread destruction in the industry. Ms. Wilson explained that the issue could escalate into trade bans for Jamaica.
It also has the potential of devastating an entire cocoa industry. And so the ministry continues to place significant importance to the management of the frosty pod rot.
Last year, Agriculture Minister Carl Simuda issued a stop order on cocoa production, explaining that it had to be done because of the onset of the dreaded frosty pod rot disease. The stop order, under the Plants Quarantine Act, imposed penalties on persons found in breach. A local geologist is urging the government to address the issue of squatter settlements in order to prevent more flooding from heavy rainfall and other weather hazards. It comes as several parishes, including Portland and St. Mary, are experiencing flooding as a result of consistent heavy rains since last week. Dr. Paris Liu Ai told Nationwide News that the existence of squatter settlements is to be blamed for many of these flooding incidents. He says the authorities are aware of the urgency of addressing the squatter settlement issue. But the geologist says they refuse to act due to their dependence on the votes of these residents who live in squatter settlements. He says flooding incidents like that which occurred in Portland are now normal. Mickey Horton James has once again relinquished his role as head of the Miss Jamaica World Beauty pageant. Horton James made the announcement via social media on Thursday that he has passed the baton to Ashton Cook and Weston Horton. He also expressed a strong desire to travel more often for extensive periods in his autumn years. Spartan first became associated with the pageant back in 1976 when it sent then gym instructor Cindy Breakspear to that contest. She subsequently won it, becoming Jamaica's second title holder. Spartan again tasted success back in 1993 when Lisa Hanna won the Miss World title in Sun City, South Africa. In regional news, Grenada may be removed from the European tax haven blacklist as early as this month's end. The removal is expected to take place at a meeting of the Financial and Economic Unit of the OECD set for January 23. Grenada was among 17 countries blacklisted by the EU last year for failing to sign and ratify the OECD Multilateral Convention on Mutual Administrative Assistance report. But in his country's defense, Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell says the country should not have been on the list in the first place since it had met all the required conditions.
On January 23rd, the Financial and Economic Unit of the OECD will be meeting after the response from Grenada, and of course we pointed out the mistakes that were made. Grenada is expected to be removed before the end of January from that blacklist. So I think we would have gone through that process successfully. Specifically in the case of Grenada, we had asked for some communication be sent to us so that we'll move and deal with what we're supposed to do. And we did not. They took a very long time to send it. So since the blacklist came on, they've sent the information. We have then replied, and as I said, before the end of the month, from indication we correspondent received last week, we expect to be removed from that blacklist.
In Trinidad and Tobago, Former Prime Minister Basideo Pandey says the corruption is one of the main problems in the Trinidad Republic's police force. However, he says the issue is not new and has been a problem for decades. He was speaking on Wednesday before a joint select committee.
Explained that many of the problems plaguing the police service were recurring from as far back as his tenure as National Security Minister, and they were systemic. He explained that during his tenure, many within the public service expressed reluctance to accept a computerized system, as some were afraid that they would lose their jobs, while others felt it would shake up a system which benefited them.
If you go to this report, you will see that if technology was used, they solved a lot of problems. But people fear technology not only because they lose their jobs, but because it reduces the opportunity for corruption.
But he said this thinking was present within the wider political system. As he pointed out, the bureaucracy continued to be a hindrance, and he pointed to the government's failure to appoint a police commissioner for the past 6 years as an example.
The whole system is corrupt. And the point about it is, I really eventually do not blame the people. I blame the system. And the present political system does not allow for control. First of all, ministers should not be members of parliament. They have no thought to do. The executive must be separated from the judiciary. You need fundamental change. That's what you need.
He explained that during his time as National Security Minister, he held weekly meetings with various heads of division, detailed their issues and addressed them. Yet when problems persisted, it became apparent that the failure lay deep in the system.
In sports, we kick off with football, as General Secretary of the Jamaica Football Federation, Dalton Wint, says the impasse with Reggae Boys coach Theodore Tapper Whitmore will be over soon, as he expects him to sign a new contract offered to him. Whitmore, along with his assistant Jerome Waite, have coached the Reggae Boys since 2016, but are yet to sign a 2-year contract that was placed before them by the Federation last October. However, speaking to the Gleaner this week, Wint said that the JFF will soon be meeting with Whitmore in an effort to convince the former national player to sign his new contract. He said there are a few sticking points, but money is not the main issue. Wint added that the meeting with Whitmore will take place before the Reggae Boys travel to Turkey for a friendly international match against South Korea on January 30. In cricket, Jamaica Cricket Association Vice President Mark Nita says Windies fast bowling legend Sir Curtly Ambrose is partially correct in his assessment that the regional side's poor showing in New Zealand is because of bad pitches in the Caribbean. The Windies were whitewashed on the recent tour. Ambrose, also a former Windies bowling coach, told the Trinidad Guardian newspaper that the pitches in the region need to be suited to both spin and fast bowling, but also allow for batsmen to score runs. Nita agrees, saying that pitches today in the region only encourage spin bowling, but he said that the Windies' batting throughout the series was not good enough. Nita, the Melbourne Cricket Club president, then went on to say that groundsmen across the Caribbean are not given the respect they deserve, unlike their English counterparts. He told the Gleaner, quote, "In Jamaica, we don't have professional groundsmen," end quote. He said it is considered almost a demeaning job to be a groundsman, whereas in England, it's a top job. And over to athletics, as Cayman Islands national 100-meter record holder Kamar Hyman says he plans to stamp his authority on the sport this year. He has set his sights on the Commonwealth Games and the Caribbean and Central American Games. More in this report from Cayman's 27 Jordan Armanese.
28 is usually it's not their peak time, I should say. I've seen athletes where they reach 30, 31, 32 and still running PRs.
Can Cayman's Kamar Hyman do something he hasn't done in almost 6 years? Run sub 10 seconds in the 100 meters.
I would say it's there. We just need to tweak the training a little bit where, hey, look, I'm older now, so we got to implement different strategies so that I can get a different output.
Hyman says he's gone back to the drawing board. and that means perfecting his craft and the science of 100 meters.
I try to stay absolutely relaxed because there's a lot of athletes that would try to take you out of your game plan with jumping up and down, as you said.
Hyman breaks down his 100 meters into 3 parts.
I mean, the first 30 is kind of, as soon as you get into the blocks, it happens so quick that you don't even remember. So things that we try to do is a lot of reps. Good arm drive, great push.
That's where Hyman shifts into the second phase of the race.
When you reach the second 30, which is the 60 meters now, you tend to get out of your dry phase and try to stay tall, like basically on your toes, and try to finish the race with whatever push you gave for the first to 60 meters and then through the race.
With the final phase being the most trying.
Hold on for dear life. Try to keep your form. Try not to break down.
And in arguably the sport's most prestigious event, Hyman knows there is no room for error.
You only have one chance to, when the gun goes off, you have one chance. So you have to absolutely perfect that.
And that's the news. Do stay with us. The weather report is next. Jamaica should brace for more rain, according to the Meteorological Service, as a cold front, which is producing showers and thunderstorms across the Gulf of Mexico, is moving toward the southeast. Now, the system is expected to enter the Western Caribbean today and linger in the vicinity of Jamaica throughout the weekend, and atmospheric conditions are expected to become unstable across the island starting this afternoon. Let's take a look at what's happening in Kingston right now. We're saying afternoon showers are expected going into this evening, so ensure that you plan accordingly. We're also seeing that the temperature is still going to be at a warm 28 degrees Celsius, and that's set to go down to just about 23 degrees Celsius in the evening. Let's take a look at what will be happening over the next 7 days. We're seeing that the front will be affecting the island for the next couple of days. We're seeing a high percentage forecast for a possibility of rain over the weekend, between 30% and 70% chance of rainfall forecast for the weekend in Kingston. We're also seeing an average temperature between 21 and 28 degrees Celsius going into next week. Let's take a look at what's happening over there in St. James. We're looking at today's forecast for Montego Bay, St. James. We're expecting showers this afternoon. We had some showers in certain areas in St. James this morning. We're also expecting an average temperature between 21 and 27 degrees throughout the day. And in some areas, the temperature is set to go down to a cool 11 degrees Celsius. And in our 7-day forecast for Montego Bay, we can expect an average temperature between 21 and 27 degrees Celsius. And we're also seeing the possibility of showers going into next week for Montego Bay. We're seeing cloudy conditions, though, for Tuesday and Wednesday in our 7-day forecast for Montego Bay, St. James. Today, we can expect showers across most parishes in the island, and we're also expecting the temperature to be between 27 and 29 degrees Celsius, so it's still going to be pretty warm out in most areas. And tomorrow we can expect continued showers for the weekend. As was reported at the beginning of the newscast, we're expecting an average temperature, though, between 27 and 29 degrees Celsius. So please plan accordingly for a wet weekend. And in our forecast across the region, we're expecting an average temperature between 22 and 28 degrees Celsius. We're also expecting rainfall, and that is because of the cold front, which is producing showers and thunderstorms across the Gulf of Mexico, and it's expected also to affect the western end of the region as well. We're also expecting that we should be getting some sunshine over there in Mexico. And in our travel planner, we're looking to the United States, where we're seeing a minimum temperature -4 degrees Celsius. And we're also seeing a high 23 degrees Celsius. Of course, that's in Miami. We're also seeing a forecast of cloudy conditions in Miami, so it's going to get cool in certain areas. We're seeing a minimum temperature for Miami, 16 degrees Celsius, so it should be pretty cool in certain areas. Over there in Los Angeles, it should be pretty sunny tomorrow. And that's it for the weather report. Thanks so much for making it PBCJ. Remember, we are the People's Station.